So we are continuing our TV movie series. Um, week 2, we're going to talk about career and how movies have been a little misleading in how easy it is to find a career or stumble upon it or find your passion or anything like that. Yeah, it seems to be a theme that these high profile jobs that these women are getting are like in magazines or are advertising. And so I just feel like very misleading on the process of getting to your dream job versus what reality actually is.
Have you ever, or like, did you feel like that was how you felt like coming out of college? Like that you were gonna just like kind of land your dream job, you're gonna stumble upon like someone who's just gonna like give you your big break? Like,
Yeah, and I think that's what they show in the movies. Like, you know, you want something and someone's going to ask you if you want it, and then it just pairs together. Um, I didn't even think that much coming out of college, thinking like, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to go for. Like, it didn't pair very much similarly to any of the TV shows or anything like that. And the two that I'm thinking, like just off the top of my head, is like 10 things or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And that's like Kate Hudson working in a big magazine company, and she's got like this great job. And 13 Going on 30, where Jen Garner was literally 13, woke up as a 30-year-old, super successful in another magazine publication. And first of all, like the age thing, do people even get to, like I understand it's movies and they dramatize it, I get it, but I don't know, I can't be the only one that was misled into thinking like, oh, it's jobs are going to look so glamorous and they're going to be so easy to get. Like that's what I thought.
yeah, you're right. Like that stands out to me. What was it? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. That was a big one. Because like both Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson, who star in the film, are both like hotshot marketing columnists, and like even like Sex in the City, like she's a writer, she's a freelance writer. Like they're all just doing this like really high profile freelance slash couture magazine writing slash marketing, which I guess were really big industries at that time.
Yeah.
And I guess they still are. I don't know. But there was just kind of like this interesting theme, which kind of made you fall in love with those industries, right?
Yeah, it just looks like super glamorous, and who knows, it might be, like, I don't know, never actually got into it. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did like you, because you studied something that wasn't in either of those fields. So I guess like when you went into the real world and you discover that like, oh, it's a little different, like, did it make you think that you were heading in the wrong direction? Like, did you think that you were off track or anything like that? Do you think that contributed to any of those feelings?
Um, I mean, definitely so. I think the biggest thing of why I feel like I've been misled is because they make movies and TV shows make jobs in general seem much funner than it is. So no matter the industry, like it just makes it seem like, yeah, I have a job, I'm an independent woman, and the job pays for everything. And the reality is, uh, to live the lifestyle that you're seeing in movies and shows, it takes way more than a middle class salary to do that. Like I can't buy Manolo Blahniks on a job that pays $10 an hour. And I think like most people get that, but and I don't know how much freelance writing pays, but I think it's misleading because people think, oh, I'll just become a freelance writer. It seems to be pretty easy. And I don't think that it is. I don't know. And then I can just afford all these things. And then you like strive for this Carrie Bradshaw lifestyle. But the reality is, working in general is hard, and getting paid that amount to live that lifestyle is not easy. And for some jobs, you can't even reach that level. So I think it's just misleading people into thinking like any job is going to be any type of glamorous, and it's not. I mean, at least the ones I've been in, and I have not been in any glamorous jobs at all. So it could just be a specific industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think like you touched on something super interesting there. I think glamour has a lot to do with whether or not you're passionate, right? Like, I guess glamour in the traditional sense where, yeah, you are able to buy like red bottoms and Manolos and stuff like that. But um, specifically in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, one of the things that I remember is Kate Hudson's character is forced to write about certain topics. She doesn't want to write about them, but her boss won't let her write about anything else.
Right.
So she's miserable, wants to leave because she's not passionate about this style of writing anymore. So I feel like, as glamorous as it was presented to be, like, she was still miserable, but because of the nature of the film, I don't think that that was something that people really picked up on, because the
Yeah.
message that I get from things like this or movies like this, that I enjoy watching your like rom-coms occasionally and whatever else. I feel like the message is like, follow your heart. It's like it's almost like an adult fairy tale, like a Disney, like
Yeah.
Disney for adults, right? Like, follow your heart, listen to, like, watch for the green lights or the guideposts or whatever you want to call them. I think that's what it's meant to be, like a little bit of like a fairy tale, right? But unfortunately, depending on when you're watching, what age or what phase in your life you're watching these movies, like the message will be different, right? Like when How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days came out, I was like, I don't know, 15 or something like that. So
Yeah.
very different messaging than what I would have gotten from that right now.
Right.
But yeah, like I do think that the glamour portion of it has a lot to do with whether or not you're passionate about what you want or what you're doing in life.
Yeah.
Because I would
Yeah.
hate
And
working for a magazine. Like, I would hate that. I think I genuinely believe I would hate that.
yeah, and it's definitely like the job of the movie to not focus on like the downsides of a job. Like, no one's going to watch a
Yeah.
movie just to watch like the crappy parts. And I'm sure the viewers like know to a certain extent this can't be reality. um but I think just experiencing like the stark difference between movie and reality is like, whoa, it is nothing
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah.
my slight expectation of being able to live a little bit glamorously was completely squashed by reality when, like, it's hard to even pay the bills, let alone buy shoes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it's definitely like impressionable minds, like, just
Yeah.
be
You're right.
aware this is not reality.
It's not. But you know what? Like, I will say, to their credit, like, film creators, movie creators in this day and age, at least like now in 2020, thanks to platforms I feel like YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and other content creation platforms, where people are kind of just able to generate and produce their own movies. I feel like film creators are almost forced to show movies that are more real, that showcase reality more. A modern love story slash rom com that I can think about that comes to mind, is called Someone Great. It stars Gina Rodriguez, Brittany Snow, and Deandra Wise, multicultural cast. It's about this girl who is kind of reminiscing about a former relationship with a guy that she was in love with. And there's all these things that happen throughout, but at the same time, she's also chasing this career. And I guess at the end, like, she chooses herself. And
Yeah.
it definitely, like, throughout the film, it definitely focuses on I guess, the sadder parts than a traditional rom-com would.
Yeah.
Like you really feel the weight of what she's going through, and it's really relatable, I find, in
Yeah.
that movie. So I feel like they're changing the narrative a bit, or at least not even, maybe not even changing it, but just like matching reality a little bit more because there's a demand for it. And yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, the landscape of like I think all movies are changing. And even rom-coms. Like I'm sure it takes like a special skill to find what is fun for people to watch, but still have to like splash a little bit of like fantasy in there so that it's interesting, you know? Because I'm sure having a movie of like real life is so depressing. It's like, I mean, certain people's life, you know, it's depressing to live it, let alone watch it. So I know that they have
Yeah.
to add in like a little bit of like, oh, that can't happen. But I guess it's just like I've seen enough to where at the point of, you know, adulthood, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't what it feels like when I used to watch all those movies when I was younger. So that's why I'm calling them out. But I mean, I still watch movies. I love me my rom-coms. That is still my genre of choice. But now as an adult, I know like, oh, it doesn't feel like that. Real jobs are not like that.
Yeah. Do you find that like, because like I'm assuming, and I know your favorite movies tend to come from a different era or a different generation, um, particularly the 90s. Do you find that when you're rewatching these movies that you're getting different messages from them? Like, like are you
Mm,
picking up on the different underlying themes that they present? Like obviously there's usually like a main like girl meets guy, girl falls in love with guy, but like all the other issues that happen throughout, like are you picking up on those messages?
Um, a little bit, yeah. What I've noticed differently now watching it versus before is that the person who was like misunderstood or like kind of in the background, like I actually feel for them more, you know, like I guess I pick up more on like the background stuff, kind of like what you're saying, like the background stuff versus the main storyline or the main characters. Like now I'm like, oh, like I was having a hard time doing that because, you know, that is, I don't know, like living, I don't know, but I can understand the background stories a little bit more. They're more relatable than like the main fairy tale. But I
Absolutely.
can't think of any movies that I've seen recently that I was like, oh, this is completely different now.
Yeah.
Except I did start watching the show Girlfriends because it's on Netflix. And I don't know if you guys had that.
We
Um,
used to watch that show. Yeah, it used to come on BET, I think,
yeah,
or one of the channels. I think actually it used to broadcast on a Canadian channel. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago.
yeah, that show like needs to be brought back right now. Like starting from the very first episode, they hit like so many real relevant issues that I'm like, for that's classic, right? For something to have been made years ago and still be prevalent now, that's what you call a classic.
For sure,
So
for sure.
yeah, I can't think of any movies, but definitely that show. I'm like, oh my gosh, this shit is so good.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because I watched your favorite rom com, First Wives Club,
Oh my god, I love that.
and I had
Yeah.
never seen it before. Okay, like I never watched it before. I watched it
Yeah.
recently, like a couple months ago.
Yeah, and it's so old.
But you know, I thought it was interesting. Like I didn't know what to expect, and it certainly wasn't like your traditional. I guess it is for that time period, but like I see Bette Midler, and like I really liked her character. It could really like it really spoke to me. She's a single mom, you know, she's just trying to do the best for her son. Like
Yep.
I saw at the end like they were trying to empower women more, and like one of the things that comes to mind a lot is just the societal impact. Um, of whatever was happening during that generation that movie is reflecting. And I think that's why I love watching old movies so much. Is like you can pick up on like what was going on in the workforce, right? Like where women, like that was kind of like I don't want to say the peak because it's been happening for a long time, but like from a modern perspective that I can relate to, like that's kind of like the most like the peak of when all this women inequality in the workplace was happening and stuff like that, sexual
Right.
harassment in the workplace, women were just finding their voice, like just a different time. As much as we like to glamorize and romanticize the 90s, I know it was an ugly time for a lot of people. So
Yeah, and just for people who haven't seen it, like Bette Midler, her like storyline was she's a single mom. She helped out her husband's business and was there day and night, struggled with him, got it off the ground, and then he divorces her and she's left with like nothing because she didn't have her own career or anything. And it's interesting that you say that because yes, that was a generation thing. Whereas now women are like, no, I have like my own career. I can sustain on my own 2 feet. But back then it was like a very typical arrangement, you know, like women helped out their husbands and maybe didn't have anything independently. I mean, not just them, but now too. But yeah, that was a normal situation back then, which is why it was so relevant, that movie.
and she ends up, I think she ends, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but like I know that she makes like a big comeback, so to speak, in the film.
Yeah.
But I think that's so important because like, you know, in a lot of these rom-coms, there's usually this like parallel theme of romance and career. And I feel like another message in there is like, particularly in the movie Someone Great, just because it's a recent example, like I feel like it's like, as much as you want to romanticize on this relationship or this guy that's unattainable or that you broke up with or whatever the case may be, I feel like it gives you the message of like removing this toxicity or people that are no longer meant for you, and being okay with choosing yourself, being okay in creating room for your career and these aspirations that you have, um, and just being okay with these people who are not okay to grow with you, and like leaving
Yeah.
them where they belong in your timeline. um, and that's not to say that you can have one or the other, because I know that's another argument that people make is, oh, you can only have one. No, I don't believe that. I do believe that once you choose yourself and you get yourself acquainted with your height, with your vision and your career and your path, then there are people for you, that will start to align with you. So
Right. Yeah, I definitely we're definitely seeing more movies with like the intermingling of career and relationship versus one or the other. And that's kind of reassuring too because reality is, and I think there are a lot of people out there who can have both, you know, and that just means like go women, we can do it all. So yeah, movies and writers are definitely catching up with the times, which is, you know, a good thing, keeps it interesting. But that's something that, you know, to be proud of for the movie and show landscape, right? Like they're picking up on the changing times. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Nice.
We have a couple of minutes. So you guys let us know what you think about TV shows in general and whether that's influenced you to choose a specific career or stay away from one or the other, or what your experience was um, in, you know, getting career that you thought looked great in a movie and actually didn't turn out to be exactly what you wanted.
Right. Yeah. That's a good one. I want to know, like, was there a disconnect between your ambition and your expectation? Because I feel like there's a difference, you know, especially in the millennial workforce, like expectation versus reality. That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. So let us know what you think below, and don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when we're coming out with the next episode. We'll see you
Yay.
next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.